Hey everyone, welcome back. Ignoring women, the secret to making her chase you Stoicism. What if I told you that the difference between people who achieve extraordinary success and those who struggle isn't talent, luck, or even hard work? What if the real secret lies in 7 simple mindset shifts that anyone can master? I'm going to share with you the exact psychological principles that separate high achievers from everyone else. These aren't feel-good motivational quotes. These are scientifically backed strategies that have been used by billionaires, Olympic athletes, and world-changing innovators. I spent 3 years researching this topic, interviewing over 100 successful individuals, and testing these principles in my own life. The results? They completely transformed everything. And by the end of this video, they're going to transform yours too. But here's the thing. Most people will watch this video, nod along, and then do absolutely nothing with this information. Don't be most people. Stick around until the end because I'm going to give you a simple action plan that you can start implementing today. Before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself and explain why you should listen to. I'm not here to waste your time with generic advice. You've heard 1,000 times before. 5 years ago, I was working a dead-end job, living paycheck to paycheck, and felt completely stuck. Today, I run 3 successful businesses, have financial freedom, and most importantly, I wake up excited about my life every single day. The only thing that changed? My mindset. But this isn't just my story. The principles I'm about to share have been validated by decades of psychological research and have helped thousands of people completely transform their lives. We're going to cover a lot of ground today, so I've organized everything into 7 clear mindset shifts. Each one builds on the last. So make sure you watch this video all the way through to get the complete picture. Mindset shift 1, from fixed to growth. All right, let's jump into the first mindset shift. And this one is absolutely foundational. It's the difference between believing your abilities are set in stone versus believing they can be developed. This concept comes from Stanford. Psychologist Carol Dweck's groundbreaking research on mindset. She discovered that people fall into 2 categories: those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. Fixed mindset people believe that intelligence, talent, and abilities are static. They think I'm either good at this or I'm not. Growth mindset people believe that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Here's a real example. When faced with a challenge, a fixed mindset person thinks, I'm not smart enough for this, while a growth mindset person thinks, I'm not smart enough for this yet. The science behind this is fascinating. Brain imaging studies show that people with growth mindsets literally have more active neural pathways when learning new skills. Their brains are more plastic, more adaptable. But here's what most people get wrong about growth mindset. It's not just about trying harder. It's about trying smarter. It's about seeing failures as data points, not verdicts. Let me share a personal story. When I first started my business, I failed spectacularly. Lost $50,000 in 6 months. The old me would have said, I'm not cut out for this, and quit. Instead, I asked, what can I learn from this failure? That question changed everything. The growth mindset person doesn't just bounce back from failure. They bounce forward. They use every setback as a stepping stone to something better. Action item number 1 for the next week. Catch yourself whenever you think, I can't do this, and add the word yet to the end. It's a small change with massive implications. Mindset shift 2, from perfection to progress. The second mindset shift that separates high achievers from everyone else is letting go of perfectionism and embracing progress. Now, I know what you're thinking, but don't successful people have high standards? Absolutely. But there's a crucial difference between excellence and perfectionism. Excellence is about doing your best work and continuously improving. Perfectionism is about avoiding failure at all costs. Excellence moves you forward. Perfectionism keeps you stuck. Research from Dr. Brené Brown shows that perfectionism is actually correlated with depression, anxiety, and decreased performance. Meanwhile, People who focus on progress over perfection are more creative, more resilient, and ultimately more successful. Think about it this way. Perfectionism is like being a museum curator of your life. Everything has to be flawless before it sees the light of day. Progress-minded people are like gardeners. They plant seeds, tend to them, and understand that growth is messy but necessary. Look at the most successful companies in the world. Google, Facebook, Amazon. They all follow the same principle. Perfect is the enemy of good. They launch products that are good enough, get feedback, and improve iteratively. Facebook's first version was incredibly basic. Google's homepage is still essentially blank. Amazon started by selling just books. They focused on progress, not perfection. Here's how this shifted my life. I used to spend months perfecting business plans, website designs, and product ideas before launching anything. I was so afraid of criticism that I never put anything out into the world. Then I learned about the concept of minimum viable progress. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect product, I started shipping imperfect work and improving it based on real feedback. My first YouTube video was terrible. Bad audio, shaky camera, stumbling over words. But I published it anyway. That imperfect video led to everything I have today. Here's a practical framework. The 80-20 rule for perfectionism. When something is 80% ready, ship it. Use the feedback to make it 100%. This approach is exponentially faster than trying to perfect something in isolation. Action item number 2. Identify one project you've been perfecting for too long. Set a deadline to launch it at 80% completion this week. Mindset shift. 3. From scarcity to abundance. The third mindset shift is perhaps the most powerful one we'll discuss today. Moving from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. Scarcity thinking is the belief that there's not enough to go around, not enough opportunities, not enough money, not enough success for everyone. Abundance thinking is the opposite, believing that there's plenty for everyone. Harvard researcher Sendil Mullainathan found that scarcity thinking literally changes how your brain works. When you believe resources are limited, your brain goes into survival mode, making you less creative, less collaborative, and more short-sighted. Abundance thinkers, on the other hand, make better decisions because they're not operating from fear. They see opportunities where others see threats. Let me give you a concrete example. When Netflix was a small DVD by mail company, Blockbuster was the giant. Scarcity thinking would say, "We can't compete with Blockbuster." Abundance thinking said, "The market is big enough for innovation." Netflix didn't try to beat Blockbuster at their own game. They created an entirely new game. That's abundance thinking in action. Here's another way to think about it. Scarcity-minded people see business as a zero-sum game. If someone else wins, they lose. Abundance-minded people see business as positive sum. Everyone can win. The most successful people I know actively help their competitors. They share knowledge, make introductions, and collaborate. Why? Because they understand that growing the entire pie benefits everyone. This shift was huge for me personally. I used to hoard information, afraid that sharing my knowledge would somehow diminish my value. I was wrong. The more I gave away, the more valuable I became. When I started sharing business strategies on social media, other entrepreneurs didn't see me as competition. They saw me as a valuable resource. This led to partnerships, joint ventures, and opportunities I never could have imagined. There's fascinating neuroscience behind this. When you operate from abundance, your brain produces more dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals associated with happiness and well-being. When you operate from scarcity, your brain produces cortisol, the stress hormone that impairs decision-making. So abundance thinking isn't just better for business. It's better for your health and happiness. Here's how to start thinking abundantly. Instead of asking, "How can I get more?" ask, "How can I give more?" Instead of, "How can I beat my competition?" ask, "How can I make the whole industry better?" Action item 3. This week, find one way to help a competitor or peer succeed. Share a resource, make an introduction, or offer advice. Watch how it comes back to you. Engagement break and retention. All right, we're about halfway through and I want to pause for a moment. If you're finding value in this content, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm share this with more people who need to hear it. And I want to hear from you. Which of these first 3 mindset shifts resonates most with your current situation? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single comment and often create follow-up videos based on your questions. Now, what we've covered so far is powerful, but the next 4 mindset shifts are where things get really interesting. We're going to talk about the psychology of taking action, dealing with criticism, and the counterintuitive approach to goals that high achievers use. Plus, I'm going to share the story of how one mindset shift helped me turn a $5,000 investment into a 7-figure business. So don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. I release videos like this every week, and you don't want to miss them. Mindset shift. 4. From planning to action. Mindset shift number 4 is the difference between being a planner and being a doer. This one hits close to home for many people because we live in a culture that glorifies planning over execution. Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this analysis paralysis, the tendency to overthink decisions to the point where you never actually make them. His research shows that people who spend too much time analyzing options are less satisfied with their eventual choices. Successful people understand that imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time. Here's the difference. Average people spend 80% of their time planning and 20% executing. High achievers flip this ratio. 20% planning, 80% executing. This doesn't mean successful people are reckless. They just understand that you learn more from 1 hour of action than 10 hours of planning. Look at how successful businesses actually start. Amazon began as a simple online bookstore. Airbnb started with air mattresses on a living room floor. Twitter was originally a side project from a podcasting company. None of these founders had perfect business plans. They had good enough ideas and they took action. They figured it out as they went along. I learned this lesson the hard way. I spent 2 years creating the perfect business plan for my first company. I researched everything, created detailed financial projections, and designed elaborate workflows. When I finally launched, 90% of my plan was wrong. The market responded differently than I expected. Customer needs were different than I assumed. I had to adapt quickly. Meanwhile, a friend of mine started a similar business with a 1-page plan and launched in 2 weeks. By the time I launched my perfect business, he was already profitable and had learned from months of real market feedback. Here's a framework that changed everything for me. The 10-10-10 rule. When facing a decision, ask yourself, how will I feel about this in 10 minutes? 10 months and 10 years? Most decisions that seem huge in the moment are actually reversible. If you choose wrong, you can course correct. But if you never choose at all, you're guaranteed to stay stuck. Neuroscience research shows that taking action, even imperfect action, creates momentum in your brain. Each small action makes the next action easier. It's like building an action muscle. On the flip side, excessive planning without action creates what psychologists call learned helplessness, a state where you become comfortable with inaction. So how do you become more action-oriented? First, set good enough standards. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for good enough to get started. Second, use time boxing. Give yourself a limited amount of time to plan, maybe a day or a week, then force yourself to take action, regardless of how ready you feel. Third, embrace the concept of failing fast. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, the faster you succeed. Action item 4. Think of one decision you've been postponing. Apply the 10-10-10 rule and take action on it today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Mindset shift 5, from external to internal validation. The 5th mindset shift is one of the most liberating. Moving from external validation to internal validation. This is about becoming your own biggest fan instead of constantly seeking approval from others. We live in an age of constant external validation. Likes, comments, shares, reviews. Psychologist Tim Kasser's research shows that people who derive their self-worth from external sources are more anxious, more depressed, and less satisfied with life. High achievers, on the other hand, have developed what psychologists call internal locus of control. They judge their worth based on their own standards, not other people's opinions. Think about every major innovation in history. When Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, experts said it would fail. When Netflix started streaming, people said it was impossible. When Elon Musk announced Tesla, the entire auto industry laughed. These innovators didn't let external criticism stop them because they had strong internal validation systems. They trusted their own judgment more than the opinions of others. Now, this doesn't mean ignoring all feedback. There's a crucial difference between constructive feedback and destructive criticism. Feedback helps you improve. Criticism just tears you down. Internal validation means being able to distinguish between the two and only paying attention to feedback that actually helps you grow. This mindset shift completely changed my relationship with social media and business. I used to obsess over every comment, every like, every review. Negative feedback would ruin my entire day. Then I realized I was giving strangers on the internet control over my emotional state. That's insane when you think about it. Why would I let people who don't even know me determine how I feel about myself? Research from Dr. Kristen Neff shows that people with strong internal validation systems are more creative, more resilient, and more likely to take calculated risks. They're not paralyzed by the fear of what others might think. Here's something that will blow your mind. Psychologists have identified something called the spotlight effect. We think people are paying way more attention to us than they actually are. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to judge you as harshly as you think they are. Once you understand this, it's incredibly freeing. That embarrassing thing you did last week, most people have already forgotten about it. They're too busy dealing with their own lives. So how do you develop internal validation? First, define your own success metrics. Instead of measuring success by what others think, create your own scorecard based on your values and goals. Second, practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend. You wouldn't berate a friend for making a mistake, so why do it to yourself? Third, celebrate your wins privately before sharing them publicly. Learn to feel proud of your accomplishments before seeking external recognition. Here's the beautiful thing about internal validation. It creates a positive feedback loop. When you're not dependent on others for approval, you're more confident. When you're more confident, you perform better. When you perform better, you have more legitimate reasons to feel good about yourself. Action item 5. Create your own success scorecard. List 5 metrics that matter to you personally, independent of what others think. Start tracking these instead of external metrics like social media engagement. Mindset shift 6. From comfort to challenge. Mindset shift number 6 is about embracing discomfort as a sign of growth rather than something to avoid. This one separates achievers from everyone else more than almost any other factor. Here's what most people don't understand. Your brain only grows when it's challenged. Neuroscientist Dr. Rick Hansen calls this taking in the good. Your brain literally rewires itself when you push beyond your comfort zone. When you stay comfortable, your neural pathways become more rigid. When you embrace challenge, you create new neural connections. It's like the difference between a well-worn path and exploring new territory. Think about how athletes train. They don't get stronger by lifting the same weight every day. They progressively overload their muscles, constantly pushing beyond their current capacity. The same principle applies to every area of life. You don't get mentally stronger by doing the same comfortable tasks. You grow by consistently challenging yourself. Warren Buffett was terrified of public speaking. So what did he do? He enrolled in a Dale Carnegie course and forced himself to speak publicly until it became natural. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job for being unfit for television news. Instead of retreating to something safe, she pushed into even more challenging media opportunities. Psychologist Dr. Martin Seligman's research shows that people who regularly challenge themselves develop what he calls psychological resilience. They become anti-fragile. They don't just bounce back from difficulties. They become stronger because of them. Let me share how this played out in my life. I was terrified of networking events. The thought of walking into a room full of strangers made me physically sick, but I knew networking was crucial for my business. Instead of avoiding these events, I made a commitment to attend one networking event per week for 6 months. The first few were torture. I'd stand in the corner, check my phone, and leave early. But gradually something shifted. I started getting comfortable with discomfort. I developed conversation skills. I built genuine relationships. Some of my best business opportunities came from those terrifying networking events. Here's the key insight. You don't have to make massive leaps. Small, consistent challenges compound over time. Each time you do something that scares you a little bit, you expand your comfort zone permanently. It's like exercise. You don't run a marathon on day one. You start with a walk around the block, then a short jog, gradually building your capacity. Challenges can take many forms: intellectual challenges that stretch your mind, social challenges that improve your relationships, physical challenges that build resilience, and creative challenges that expand your imagination. The key is to have challenges in multiple areas of your life. This creates what psychologists call cross-training for life. Skills and confidence from one area transfer to others. I want you to visualize your comfort zone as a circle. Every time you do something outside that circle, the circle gets bigger. The more you expand it, the more opportunities become available to you. Most people's comfort zones actually shrink over time because they avoid challenges. High achievers' comfort zones constantly expand because they seek out appropriate challenges. Action item number 6, identify one area where you've been playing it safe. Commit to one small challenge in that area this week. It doesn't have to be huge, just outside your current comfort zone. Mindset shift 7, from fixed goals to flexible systems. The final mindset shift might surprise you. Moving from rigid goal setting to flexible system building. This goes against everything you've been taught about achievement, but it's how the most successful people actually operate. Here's a shocking statistic. Research shows that 92% of people who set goals never achieve them. Why? Because goals focus on outcomes you can't always control, while systems focus on processes you can control. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, puts it perfectly. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. Think about professional athletes. They don't just set a goal to win the championship. They build systems around training, nutrition, recovery, and mental preparation. The championship is the outcome of the system, not the goal itself. The same principle applies in business. Amazon's goal wasn't to become the world's largest retailer. Their system was obsessing over customer experience and operational efficiency. The massive success was a byproduct of their system. This completely revolutionized how I approach achievement. I used to set these big, ambitious goals: make $1 million, lose 30 pounds, write a best-selling book. These goals were inspiring initially, but they were also overwhelming. When progress was slower than expected, I'd get discouraged and quit. Then I shifted to systems thinking. Instead of make $1 million, my system became create value for 100 people every day. Instead of lose 30 pounds, my system became exercise for 30 minutes and eat one healthy meal daily. Here's why systems work better than goals. They create compound growth. Each day you follow your system, you get slightly better. These small improvements compound over time into extraordinary results. Goals create an all-or-nothing mentality. You either achieve the goal or you don't. Systems create continuous improvement. You're winning every day you follow the system, regardless of the ultimate outcome. Systems are also more flexible than goals. When circumstances change, and they always do, you can adapt your system while maintaining progress. Rigid goals often become irrelevant or impossible when situations change. The most powerful systems are identity-based. Instead of setting a goal to run a marathon, adopt the identity of being a runner. Then ask, what would a runner do today? This approach makes behavior change automatic. Here are some examples of effective systems. Instead of read 50 books this year, build a system of read for 20 minutes before bed. Instead of build a successful business, create a system of talk to 5 potential customers every day. Systems provide immediate feedback, which is crucial for motivation. With goals, you only get feedback when you succeed or fail. With systems, you get positive feedback every time you execute the process. This creates what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. You start enjoying the process itself, not just the results. So how do you build effective systems? First, identify the smallest possible action that moves you toward your desired outcome. Then focus on consistency over intensity. Second, design your environment to support your system. If you want to exercise daily, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with healthy options. Third, track your system, not just your results. Celebrate showing up and following the process, regardless of the immediate outcome. Action item number 7. Take one goal you're currently working toward and convert it into a daily system. Focus on the process, not the outcome, for the next 30 days. Let's bring this all together. We've covered 7 powerful mindset shifts that separate high achievers from everyone else. From fixed to growth mindset. From perfection to progress. From scarcity to abundance. From planning to action. From external to internal validation. From comfort to challenge. From goals to systems. Here's what's beautiful about these shifts. They reinforce each other. When you adopt a growth mindset, it becomes easier to embrace challenges. When you focus on progress over perfection, taking action becomes less scary. When you build systems instead of setting rigid goals, you develop internal validation. Now, I promised you an action plan, so here it is. Don't try to implement all 7 shifts at once. That's a recipe for overwhelm. Instead, focus on 1 shift per week for the next 7 weeks. Week 1, focus on growth mindset. Add yet to your limiting beliefs. Week 2, embrace progress over perfection. Ship something at 80% completion. Week 3, practice abundance thinking. Help a competitor succeed. Week 4, prioritize action over planning. Make one decision you've been postponing. Week 5, develop internal validation. Create your personal success scorecard. Week 6, seek appropriate challenges. Do one thing outside your comfort zone. Week 7, build systems instead of setting goals. Convert one goal into a daily practice. Remember, these aren't just temporary changes. They're permanent upgrades to how you think and operate. The person who consistently applies these mindset shifts will be unrecognizable a year from now. I want to help you implement these changes. So I've created a free resource guide that breaks down each mindset shift with specific exercises and accountability tools. You can download it using the link in the description. Here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this video and move on. That's what 95% of people will do. Be part of the 5% who actually take action. First, leave a comment telling me which mindset shift you're going to implement first. I read every comment and often create follow-up content based on what you share. Second, if this video provided value, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me create more content like this and ensures you don't miss future videos. Third, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. We all know people who are stuck in limiting mindset patterns. This could be the catalyst that changes their life. Don't forget to download the free resource guide. It's linked in the description, and it will help you implement everything we've discussed today. Your mindset determines your reality. Change your mindset, and you literally change your life. The 7 shifts we've covered today aren't just concepts. They're tools for transformation. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you'll work them. The choice, as always, is yours. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.